إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ثم أما بعد. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was granted the permission to make hijrah to Medina, and he reaches in the outskirts of Medina, in our modern day terminology, kind of like the early suburbs of a main city. And he arrives there. The Rawi mentions that this is Abdullah ibn Salam, he was the Hibr, he was the Jewish rabbi who became a Muslim. He says, إِن جَفَلَ النَّاسُ إِلَيْهِ, that people, they ran towards Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon the news of him being close on the outskirts. The joy was so much for them. And they went there, and they were there to visit Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it mentions that people were saying the following words: قَدْ قَدِمَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ قَدْ قَدِمَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ قَدْ قَدِمَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. And that's what they were singing while they went to visit Rasulullah, to greet him at the entrance of the city. So Abdullah ibn Salam, he says, I heard about this, and I knew that there was a prophet that was going to come. So I also went out with them to see whether his face is of a liar or a truthful person. And then, to the amazement of Abdullah ibn Salam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives everybody, when they are gathered, the first advice. Now obviously, he is coming to establish the first Islamic state. So if you look at it from a statesman's person or from a ruler's position, he is setting the policies in place. He's saying, okay, listen, we're about to establish a new country. And the first speech always, when somebody gets elected, whether it is this president or that president, what is it? They make a huge deal out of his first speech. It's like you have security, you got live coverage, all television, everybody around the world is airing him, because that's going to determine what he means to the public. Now over here, it was not only the Muslims that came out, it was everybody that came out. The Aus and Khazraj that accepted Islam, as well as Banu Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa, all the tribes, Jewish tribes, and the Christian people living in Medina, they all came. And their concern is, what is he going to say? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, Ya ayyuhan nas. Imagine, he didn't begin to say, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. He's establishing an Islamic state. The first speech, he says, Ya ayyuhan nas. Everyone's in the khitab. He's talking to everybody. He says, first word, Afshu salam. Spread peace. To the Muslims, it meant Assalamu alaikum. And to the non-believers, it meant in general, spread peace. Let there be peace, the rule of the land. First thing. وَأَطْعِمُوا الطَّعَامِ. And let the rich feed the poor. Meaning, feed the food in exact terms. أَطْعِمُوا الطَّعَامِ. Feed food to people. And then he says, وَصِلُوا الْأَرْحَامِ. Mend ties of kinship, the bonds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created between a husband and the father, between a husband and wife, mother, father, sister, brother, uncles, aunts. These bonds, they need to be taken care of. And then the khitab to the Muslims. After three commands or three wasiyah, three advices, he comes to the Muslim and he says, وَصَلُّوا بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسُ نِيَامٌ. And pray in the middle of the night when everyone's sleeping. Now this is really profound, because this is on my first tour, and I have a habit that whenever I go to a community, and the litmus test of any community is whether we have adopted only these first four advices. And subhanAllah, all my travels I found that we talk about all the big things and big issues. And the basic advice that Rasulullah gave to the community to build it, to the foundation is missing. I was in a mall in UK, walking by, so many Muslims. I would say, Assalamu alaikum, they would not even respond to me. I see, they have beard, they're wearing topis, everything. You say salam to them, you're not from one of us. I don't know, should I even say salam to you? Maybe you're from this group or that, I don't know. None of that. Right? So what is the benefit of Rasulullah ﷺ starting with Ya ayyuhan nas? Now I'll analyze this hadith. So what's the benefit of Ya ayyuhan nas? The benefit is he has all of a sudden put all the minorities at peace. Listen, we're not here to loot you guys. We're going to spread peace. We're going to feed your poor people. Don't worry about it. Things are going to be good for you. So minority, which was the Jews and the Christians that were there, later on down it was munafiqeen, they were all at peace. They're like, okay, I mean, our threat is taken care of. I thought they were going to demolish our centers, none of that. The rule of the land is going to be peace. Now this nida, harf nida, balaghiyun, people who study the eloquence of the Quran or Hadith, they say this interjection in English, it's called. It has many purposes, but one of the biggest purposes is that it shows to the listener that whatever is being talked about is extremely important. When Rasulullah says, Ya ayyuhan nas, it really means, i.e., what I'm going to say is something very important. So pay attention to it. When Allah says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, i.e., O believers, listen to whatever's going to come, because it's going to be something important. Then, the first advice, Afshu salam. Why didn't Rasulullah ﷺ use another word for tafashi as-salam? The word afshu, he could have said alqus salam. Say salam onto each other. The word tafashi actually means when you say the word fa. This fa actually it spreads out of your mouth. This sound is called the sound of tafashi in Tajweed. Now tafashi basically means you spread Islam like this peace, this call to peace like wildfire. In English, that's the closest thing you can say. That make it go viral. You know, those young children, they understand. Facebook, Twitter, make it go viral. This trend of, this or that, you see that haircuts or pants or skimpy jeans, they go viral. That's kind of what Rasulullah is saying. Afshu salam. Make this prevalent everywhere in the society. And we need to take a lesson and heed in that no matter who it is, what it is, as long as you have the inner feeling that the person on the other side is a Muslim, say salam to him. Make an effort. And wallahi, even if that person doesn't respond, you've done your part in establishing the foundation of a society. It's so sad that you have individuals living in the same apartment building. They're all Muslims. Next door, and they don't know their names. They don't say salam. They're your neighbors. Rasulullah said about your neighbors, if they happen to be Muslims or even not Muslims, what did he say? He says, Jibreel came to me and he was giving me admonition about the rights of the neighbor. حَتَّى خِفْتُ أَن يُوَرِّث. And I thought maybe Jibreel is going to bring a rule and they will also inherit the money of an individual. And today, the least concerned families, that we're worried about all our families abroad. We got to take care of them, but you have your neighbor who's starving. And we don't even ask. When was the last time you asked or I asked the individual, is like, is everything okay with you, brother? Let me know if you got any, if Allah has given you wealth. Let me know if you need any money, anything. It feels like we're not connected. And that's not how it was supposed to be. What does it mean, Assalamu alaikum? Scholars have mentioned it basically means, I pray to Allah that no calamities or hardships or any type of pain or infliction falls upon you. That's what Assalamu alaikum means. And every time we say Assalamu alaikum, if a person, he does not respond. So I say Assalamu alaikum to you, it becomes wajib on the individual to respond to me. From the ayah of the Quran, وَإِذَا حُيِّيتُم بِتَحِيَّةٍ, that if you were given a tiding, or if you're given Assalamu alaikum, فَحَيُّوا بِأَحْسَنِ مِنْهَا, you have to respond with a better response. So if they say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you have to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It's a command from the Quran. It becomes wajib. Now, etiquettes of salam. When we're saying salam, let's not say Assalamu alaikum. That's a very common thing in the Pakistani Indian community. Or you know what, the Arab community, they actually tend to even take out salam completely. It's like Hala wallah, Kayf halak, Shnu haylak, different languages. And salam is like not even there. So they've just substituted Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah with another form of a greeting which is norm in their society. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now what is the benefit? You get either 10, 20 or 30 rewards. We all know this hadith. If you say Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, 10, 20 and 30 rewards depending on how long and how short your salam is. Now I did a quick calculation. Let's say an average person in UK or in the West, they happen to know at least 15, you must have 15 friends, family members. And I counted one of the days I was in a mall, I bumped into at least 30 Muslims. It was like 33, 34, but I stopped counting after 30. And interesting thing was, I said to myself, let me do a calculation. On average, if a Muslim brother in Bradford or in other parts, he sees a Muslim and he says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, in roughly 3 minutes, it will take you to say salam to 30 people. You gained 900 rewards in 3 minutes. Now if you do that math, it's really interesting. In a month, you gain around 27,000 rewards in 3 minutes of time. And in a lifetime, you walk away, if your average life is 60, 1.6 million rewards. These rewards, on that day when the hadith mentions that the person is going to cherish every single lahza, every single moment, he did not praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was not in the state of dhikr, that is going to be hasra on that individual. So we have an opportunity in front of us, and investing 3 minutes of our times, making a habit, and inshallah when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever sins we have done, maybe these 1.6 million deeds, or if somebody lives 80 years, there'll be more, will expiate some of that. Look at it in that term, in our akhirah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, لا تدخلون الجنة حتى تؤمنوا. You will not enter Jannah until you believe. ولا تؤمنوا, and you shall not believe. حتى تحابوا, until you love each other as a community. And then he says, أولا أدلكم على شيء إذا فعلتموه تحاببتم. Shall I not tell you something? If you were to act upon it, the community should love each other. The Sahaba said, نعم. Rasulullah said, أفشوا السلام بينكم. The first advice that I give to this community, in any community, you want to unite the community, it's not going to happen with strategies. It's not going to, they are important, but we need to take the first steps. We need to spread salam. It needs to come from your heart that I'm sending this dua to that individual. May Allah protect you from all evils and all inflictions and all pain. It's got to come from your heart. And then Allah will connect our hearts. Imam Nawawi, he mentions a lot of benefits. Due to shortest time, I'll mention a few of them. He says, it's the first key to affection within the ummah. Assalamu alaikum. Another scholar, he mentions, he says, spreading salam is like the glue that makes harmony in a community stick. We can make all the efforts of harmonizing the community, but if that glue, which is Assalamu alaikum, is not present, it's not going to happen. Now if we look at it honestly, logically it doesn't make sense. How can Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh unite us? But this is where Iman comes in. And we need to believe in Allah and His Rasul and whatever they have said for us. Second advice, he says, وَأَطْعِمُ الطَّعَامِ. Now, we know that the story, we know when Sahabas would be gifted with any meat or anything, they would give it to their neighbor, and to their neighbor, and to the neighbor, and it would travel the whole town and come back to the same person. because they wanted to feed the neighbor. That norm existed in the society. Rasulullah ﷺ, he even mentioned in a narration, he mentions that, "O Muslim ladies," talking to women who cook food, he says, "A neighboress should not look down upon to present her neighboress, even if it were the hooves of a sheep." Now, if you're in the Pakistani community, that's a very delicacy, pie. So, it's really easy for the Pakistani community to act on this hadith. You cook pie on a Sunday morning, give it to your neighbors. Let them enjoy that, warmth, the soup. Pie is in Arabic kawari', or the hooves of the sheep. Now, Fudayl ibn Iyad, he said that my teacher, whenever Rabi' ibn Haytham, anybody would come to him, he would connect the أطعم الطعام and the ayah لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون. You shall not attain taqwa until you spend from which you love. He says, the most beloved thing to me is sukkar, sugar. So whenever anybody would come to his house, he would bring a pot of sugar, a bowl of sugar, and he would tell them, eat from the sugar, because this is the most beloved thing to me. Again, you have various examples, if you go back in history, of scholars, sahabas, tabi'een, ubbad, people who used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ways of implementing this. One of the common ways we can have as a community is a gigantic feeding festival. Right? I was in a city called City of Cold Lake. This is about 4 hours drive south of Alaska. It's cold. The sun doesn't set 6 months of the year. And there's a person over there, there's only 2 Muslim families. One of them, this person is by the name of Mas'ud. When I was there for work, they told me, they said, yeah, we have a Muslim, the guy, his name is Mas'ud. He's a very active guy, mashallah. The town hall and the mayor was praising him. So I was like, mashallah, I gotta meet the brother, man. He's the only one in the city of Cold Lake. We gotta go visit him. So I visited him. So he told me, he says, you know what he does? It's called fish and fry. And every 2 months, he gathers money from whatever he can, goes out to different cities. And in his community, on the lake, they fry every 2 months, roughly 500 pounds of fish, and they give it out free. So it's become a fish and fry festival of Mas'ud. And there's only 2 Muslim families in that city. And that one individual is making that difference. Then he writes articles in the local newspaper talking about the beauty of Islam. Again, they're not academic articles, they're not scholarly articles, but the community is so happy with him because he's giving back. Unless and until we give back, we cannot expect the outside community to respect us. We'll always be seen as outcasts. We need to have efforts with inspiration of such ahadiths, feeding. Let's come up with a charity. Let's come up with a plan. Youth, we spend so much time bowling, skating, wasting time. Do something constructive so that the rest of the poor community, the needy community, Muslims, non-Muslims out there, they feel that, you know what, subhanallah, we're being benefited by this Muslim community. We're finding it beneficial that these people are in our society, rather than finding us as a burden on their society. When you feed anyone, the reward is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes Jannah wajib on you. In a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu in Hani, أنه لما وفد على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, Hani radiallahu anhu, he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from outside of Medina. قال يا رسول الله أي شيء يوجب الجنة? Which thing will make Jannah wajib on me? Now Rasulullah looks at him, he's like, عليك بحسن الكلام, upon you is good speech, وبذل الطعام, and to give food to the people. Subhanallah, sometimes we find struggling ourselves finding Jannah in other avenues. We look for, we think the only way to find Jannah for some individuals, I have to go outside in the Middle East, learn, come back and do da'wah. But Allah has given so many options for everyone to enter Jannah. It's very easy. Make it a habit. Every Friday, I know, every other Friday I have a habit. I go out I find poor people making construction workers in Saudi, where I am. I'll go out, I'll count the number of people, grab food, and give it to somebody, and nobody knows that I gave that to them. And every Friday I look for those people where I can find food. It's as simple as, those people cleaning those lampposts outside in the traffic lights, those green things. Just having a warm cup of coffee, purchasing 2 cups of coffees, giving one to him. But that makes Jannah wajib on us. Little things. Then another Sahabi came to him, Amr ibn As, Abdullah ibn Umar, he came to him and he says, أن رجالا سأل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أي إسلام خير? What is the best action in Islam? Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم says, قال تطعم الطعام. Feed the needy people with food. وتقر السلام وتقرأ السلام, and spread salam. على من عرفت ومن لم تعرف, upon whom you know, your friends, acquaintances, and those that you don't know. That is the best action in Islam. Again, I have lots of hadiths that we can go on. Wasiyah number third, wasilul arham, mending the ties of kinship. Wallahi, this is a really painful situation when I see the ummah that should have been the forebearer of mending ties of kinship, and I get phone calls and I get emails of families, brothers, father, mother, not spoken to. One brother has not recently, didn't speak to his other brother for 27 years. And his other brother passed away. So one of the persons went to him, he said, Ya akhi, go to his janazah at least. And he said, no. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whosoever cuts rahim, I shall cut him off from Jannah. In Hadith Qudsi, you'll be cut off from Jannah. These are little things, my brothers, but very important for us to pay attention to in our community. We cannot keep on neglecting these issues. They're prevalent in our society. Everywhere. No matter you're from the Arab culture or the Pakistani culture or the Bengali, any culture, if you're Muslim, you know these issues exist. And we cannot keep putting these issues underneath the rug and saying, you know what, life is going on, alhamdulillah, mashallah, the masjid is full. These issues need to be dealt with. And they start with you and with me. When you make a decision and I make a decision, I'm going to rectify my state with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the people around me. The closest people around me. Only then the community on the whole can rise. Otherwise, we can give conferences, lectures, khutbahs, but we're still going to be the same way. Basic things, easy tasks. Let's make niyyah, inshaAllah, that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us tawfiq to even if implement one advice of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, afshu salam. And guaranteed, I have this yaqeen that if we do it constantly, even as one masjid here today, if we do it for 1 year constantly, everybody will look upon you. Allah will put barakah in your efforts in a way that you cannot even imagine. I know an Islamic Centre that took on their motto, and the community in Canada, mashallah, this is known for this masjid. They only shake hands. So when you go to the Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Assalamu alaikum, like the brothers are so loving, even if they're new, Assalamu alaikum, I don't know you brother, where are you from? Tell me about, you're so warm and welcoming. This masjid used to struggle for the longest period of time for funds. Every single masjid in North America or West struggles for funds. And Allah put so much barakah in their work just by taking the advice of one of the sheikhs of spreading salam. That today they own a whole mall through which the revenue of which generates enough income for not only the masjid but even the Islamic school. And they're no longer fundraising. Rather, they're building a brand new school in Bolton. Now, one advice of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, clinged onto it with solid iman and yaqeen, can change our lives. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. And the last advice that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave was وصلوا بالليل والناس نيام. This advice had a very profound, deeper meaning, which was that perfect the art of self-discipline. Waking up in the middle of the night when you don't want to wake up, especially in UK, how cold it is and the heaters don't work. It's really interesting that, I was struggling to get up for Fajr today. I was like, do I need to come out of the blanket today? It's so cold. But subhanAllah, if we get that self-discipline, that was the hikmah behind it. Now I'm going to leave you with some tips of what you can do that can help you in tahajjud. Firstly, do not eat food after Isha. That would nullify all dinners that we have. We can't have food after Isha. Rasulullah ﷺ, if you attend the course that I'm going to be teaching on Saturday in Leeds Met, I'm going to go through that. We're going to go through the schedule of Nabi ﷺ. And we find right after Maghrib is when he would eat. Maghrib time is the time when Rasulullah would eat. Obviously we live in a country where time fluctuates and stuff like that. He used to rough around 5 to 6. 5 to 6 p.m., 6, 7. 7 is okay. But subhanAllah, I get invitations to come to dinner like at 11:30 or 11 on the tour. And I say no to them and they get really upset. Because I know that if I eat food at 10:30, 11, the whole night my body is going to be busy digesting that food and not resting. And in the morning I'm going to be so lethargic that I will probably miss my Fajr or not wake up or won't hear their alarm. So food has a direct link with waking up for Fajr. Another thing which is a lost sunnah, which is sleeping right after Dhuhr or before Dhuhr. So 15-20 minutes, even if you're in the car, leave your car parked and just close your eyes. The hadith mentions that Sahabas used to, it's not hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it's from the Sahaba, they mention that we used to use qaylula, which was a sleep, لِتُقَوِّي لِتَهَجُّد. We used to use it so that we can rectify and have this power so we can get up in tahajjud at night. Scientifically what happens is when you do this, you kind of break the pattern of your brain. So your brain gets a chance to rest for 15-20 minutes. They even call it REM, rapid eye movement. If you look up in Google REM, you'll find a whole research on it. REM. Bottom line, we need to sleep in Zuhr if you want to wake up for Fajr. Or even Salatul Fajr. And then inshallah we can talk about Tahajjud also. And lastly, staying away from unnecessary sin. There are so many sins you and I do that we really don't need to do. And we've got into the habit of it. Such as we saw something about another brother, quickly take out WhatsApp. You don't know what happened, brother. And you send him that text. That's ghibah. It's ghibah, but it's so easy to do it now. Twitter, hashtags, Facebooks, you put mentions, you have no idea. The following person, slipped from the masjid, it was a very nice moment. All of these things are ghibah. And when I read my Facebook feed with what youth are writing, it's like 80% ghibah and namima, which are not small sins, they are kaba'ir. Kaba'ir. So we need to be wary of that. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives me the tawfiq and everybody else who has listened to the khutbah to implement, even if it's one advice of this khutbah, whichever one clicks with your heart. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He alleviates the pain of the ummah. Allahumma aghfir al-muslimina wal-muslimat wal-mu'minina wal-mu'minat al-ahya'u minhum wal-amwat. Allahumma aghfir lahum warhamhum wa'afihim wa'afu anhum wa akrim nuzulahum wa wassi' mudkhalahum wa naqqihim bil-ma'i wal-thalji wal-barad. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله العظيم يشكركم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون